it's always fun for me to build a new community, especially this one is so different.
So Nihal, you are also working on another startup, right? Apart from DeepTech Stars.
This startup is it's called Swarm. Basically, we're a platform that we're solving for luxury temple travel. Some of the Indian talent that was there is comparable or even better than the talent that we see in other parts of the world, right? Really top-notch talent.
What are the best ways, tools, or apps to discover and join different communities?
Yeah, I think Meetup definitely is one of the more popular tools. 2 or 3 people come up with interesting ideas, and it can become a game changer for how you're going to spend the next few years.
What are the different things that you are aiming through DeepTech Stars?
We are not just building out this kind of community with meetups, but we're trying to build the entire ecosystem. Community building is nothing but finding those common connections for people.
I don't see any revenue or money coming in any part of the whole process.
Commercialization is always a challenge.
How can someone maximize the value that they get from a community?
Especially in India, hardware was kind of a difficult thing to crack. I am a firm believer that AI is actually going to create much more jobs.
Why they should be joining communities, especially in this AI world? What do you think companies are looking for in the AI developers?
Hello everyone and welcome to Expert Conversation. Today we have Mr. Nihal Kashinath with us, the CEO of DeepTech Stars. This is India's largest community platform for AI developers. So whether you are a student, IT professional, or someone curious about building communities and want to know AI job market, this episode is for you.
In this episode, we talked about the true value of joining a community, how to get the most out of it, and which apps or tools are available to find you the right community. We have also talked about how to build and grow a community and how to generate revenue out of community-driven businesses. So if you are looking to grow into the AI field or build an impactful community, watch this episode till the end.
The audio experience of this episode is also available in Spotify.
And if you enjoy conversations like this, don't forget to subscribe ExpertConv. Hi Nihal, how are you?
Ankit, all good. Thank you so much for having me here. Looking forward to the discussion today.
So how's your weekend going, Nihal?
Weekend has been good. Of course, there was a conference yesterday, so a lot of discussions that happened there, a lot of interesting connects. So today, being the weekend, is a time for consolidating, all of the knowledge and connects from those places, and planning the week ahead. So that's pretty much how a lot of our weekends go.
So Nihal, I know you that you run a company called DeepTech Stars, but I also want to know what DeepTech Star does, how it started, and what are the different things that you are aiming through DeepTech Stars.
Sure. So DeepTech Stars actually started off as a pure community almost. This was in 2013, so now it's almost been 12 years. The idea behind it was we started it off at that point of time focused on Internet of Things. It was just catching on. It was a very interesting topic, but I hardly knew anybody who was well versed in the Internet of Things. So I looked around in my network because I come across this concept. I wanted to speak to some experts on it. Couldn't find anyone. So then I said, let me just set up this one meetup group and we'll see what happens. So the first meetup that we did, about 10-12 people showed up, and a couple of people there had actually worked on it. We kind of got together and said, why don't we do more meetups? We'll be able to find more people who are interested in this topic. And then next weekend we did, in a co-working space, we set it up. A lot of people came in. We started to have really interesting discussions. Experts said that, I'm actually familiar with this topic. I can give a talk on this, or I can do a workshop on this. And so that way it kind of started to grow. So as we kept growing, the number of community members started to increase. Large organizations started to engage with us because we had this pool of developers who were very interested in this topic. And soon we started to realize that the kind of data that IoT generates, it is not humanly possible to make sense of it, right? To digest all the data. So we needed machine learning. So, 2014, we started to look at machine learning, deep learning, AI, all of these areas. And India being India, we actually had a lot more people interested on the software side. So 2016, we started to get into AI in a very big way, started to focus on a lot of the things that were happening at that time. What was generative AI at that time was basically generative adversarial networks or GANs, right? And so we started to do a lot of workshops, a lot of sessions specifically on that. Really, the idea was let's bring together the people who are interested in this topic. There will be some people who have expertise and they'll be willing to share their expertise with everybody else. And that has always been the theme of DeepTech Stars. Of course, the community name has evolved over the years. We started off being called IoT Bangalore. Later, we set it up as a company called Applied Singularity. And more recently, sometime last year, we moved it to a new space called DeepTech Stars. And in DeepTech Stars, we're really focused a lot more on AI itself. In terms of what we want to get out of this community, it's always been the same thing, just sharing of knowledge. Before we used to say that changes are happening on a monthly basis. Then we started to say changes are happening on a weekly basis. More recently, we were saying, daily basis, we are seeing new things happening. And honestly, now it is hourly basis. Like I can come back like 3 hours later, and there have been some major breakthrough, in the space, and it's coming from across the world, right? There's so much stuff happening in US and China and Europe. A lot of interesting work happening in India also. We try and do at least one meetup a month. A meetup could be talks, it could be workshops, it could be hackathons. It could be project sessions, startup demos, all of those kind of things. So yeah, that's a little bit about DeepTech Stars.
Also, when I visited one of the meetup of DeepTech Stars, one thing that I found that which sets it apart was that it was in the corporate office. Usually, tech event or meetups happens in some clubs, something like that. But this was something that I liked a lot. That I was in the Google office. The people who were talking, they were from Google, and they were talking about AI because they have this experience. This is one thing that I really liked about Deep Stars. What other thing that you think that Deep Stars has different from other community?
Like you rightly said, these are the experts. They are building out that technology. So it's great for us to hear directly from them about what is this new technology, what is the best way to use it, all of that. And we also, of course, try and get in like one community speaker also for that event who brings in a slightly different viewpoint, who might talk about how they have utilized the technology and those kind of things. Right. One thing that might set us apart is that we're not just building out this kind of community with meetups, but we're trying to build the entire ecosystem around it, right? So what I mean by that is, for some people, yes, they come in because they want to learn about a new technology, and for some people it's because they're already using it and they're stuck somewhere and they want to speak to experts who can guide them on how to get unstuck or how to move forward. For other people, it might be that they're coming there to look for good career opportunities, and they're hoping that they can network there and potentially make the next career move, either with a startup that is there, or because to our meetups we have people coming in from Fortune 500 companies, from consulting companies, from funded startups, from young startups. It's a complete mix, right? We have people coming in from everywhere. The only common thing is that they're all interested in AI and they tend to have a developer focus. So it's a great way for people to come in and network, and find career opportunities. We have had people at our meetups, meeting each other for the first time, then they continue to stay in touch, they continue to work on some interesting projects together, and eventually did a startup together, right? So those kind of things happen. When we do hackathons, some of the hackathons go on to become full-fledged startups with funding, all of those. So for us, it's more than just like, it does not end at just that meetup. In fact, the meetup is the starting point, for a lot of interesting journeys, whether it's a journey of learning, whether it is a career journey, whether it is a startup journey. We are trying to build out like an entire ecosystem that goes beyond just the meetups. One way that we do it, of course, is that now we also have our mobile app. Like, we were discussing about how it is so hard to stay updated with everything that happens because every few hours the things changing. So we built a simple app that allows people to stay updated on the latest that is happening. And so it curates a lot of content from different places. It summarizes it. So beginners get the kind of summary that makes sense for them. More advanced users get like expert summaries that get to the meat of the matter very quickly. So all of that. So that app also goes by DeepTech Stars. And really, we just want to take it. We want to expand that ecosystem to make it really valuable, more than just a knowledge sharing. Can we make it more valuable on all aspects of developers' careers?
Okay, so the app that you said, is it paid? Is it free? How does it work?
Oh no, this is a free app. It's called the DeepTech Stars again. It's available on iOS and Android, and pretty much anyone can download it and just stay updated on what's happening.
So why I ask this question, because I always have a curiosity. When I go to meetups, I see people coming, talking about the stuff, talking about technology, talking about what they want, what they have learned, and what they want to teach. I don't see any revenue or money coming in any part of the whole process. So I also want to know that how does a community or a company like yours generate revenue when they are doing this good work as at the same time?
Yeah, I think commercialization is always a challenge, especially when it comes to community. It becomes a lot harder. There is an expectation from the attendees that most of these events are going to be free, and I think the way that it has worked out for us is that we've always had a lot of support from the ecosystem itself. Right, so we've never had to pay for, or very rarely we've had to pay for venues. The speakers come in and share their expertise free of cost. They don't ask for payment for those kind of things. There are sponsors who will come in, pay for food, sometimes pay for the venue also if it is not a free venue for us. So that way we've had a lot of support from the community, from companies, from ecosystem players, from industry bodies. So that helps us keep our costs really low. And over a period of time, because we've also built out a really large community, like we have 30,000 plus developers on a conservative note in our community, right? It becomes easy for us to also reach out, which means we don't have any marketing expense. So basically for us, there's of course, depending from event to event. Most of the times, if it's just a meetup, if it's just a couple of talks that are happening, there is almost no cost to it from our side, and that's what allows us to keep doing these kind of events. It's literally a couple of hours on the weekend that we would spend to put together that entire event, and then of course the event day itself, where we will have all of that. It would not be possible without the kind of support that we get from the ecosystem. That is for sure, from all companies, large and small. Now, having said that, there are certain categories of events that we charge for because while running an event itself sometimes might be free, there are a lot of other behind the scenes costs that come up. So, for example, if you're using Meetup.com as a platform, which is something that we use, there is subscription fees for it. We are building out the app. There is a cost to building that app, hosting that app, all of those. And now, especially because we are using a lot of intelligence, a lot of LLMs within the app itself, there is that cost also that adds up. Of course, again, because of support from companies, we do get cloud credit. So at least for some time, those costs we don't have to bother about. But overall, these costs start to add up. Right? So there are some types of events that we do where we do take sponsorship from companies. There are some other commercial activities we do. Sometimes we might do training. We'll do kind of corporate training. So then we do on a profit share basis. The trainer also gets to monetize their skills. We get to generate some additional revenue. The company benefits from it. So we can also generate this into that. And then finally, we're helping. The new thing that we started is helping companies with recruitment itself, right? So basically, recruitment and training are two sides of the same coin. A company wants to adopt AI, they need the right kind of skill set to do it. Either they can train their existing talent or they can hire new talent from outside. And we help with both sides of this equation. So that way, doing some of these kind of activities, it helps. I'm currently not running this as a full-fledged startup. I'm just running it as a community. And to sustain a community activities, we do some of these commercial things like sponsored events, like corporate training, like recruitment. But we are of course always on the lookout for new ways to generate revenues.
In the beginning, like you mentioned, you get started with IoT kind of things. So, what motivated you towards IoT? Because during that time, I believe when you started, most of the people were looking jobs for as software engineer, and most of them were interested towards that. And especially being in India, because during that time, technology coming up in this country was little difficult as compared to what we have right now, right? So, what motivated you towards IoT and stuff?
I think the first time that I read about IoT, it seemed like, what is this crazy technology? I mean, we're talking about connecting every physical object to the internet. We're talking about putting intelligence into every object, an ability to sense, an ability to act. So to me, it seemed very exciting. It felt like this is the future, right? And I wanted to learn more about it. Apart from what we could just read up online, there was nobody else that I could speak to. So that was my initial motivation. But like you rightly said, especially in India, hardware was kind of a difficult thing to crack. Right? Really, I think the hardware game, in some sense, China has done a fantastic job of it. For us, it really became more of trying to put that software layer on top of the hardware and really unearth the intelligence, unearth the insights, and take actions based on what we're learning from there. So, but having said all of that stuff, we did find a lot of people who were interested in the IoT space, right? And there were a lot of software developers also who came in who were looking at it saying that, well, my area of expertise is software. But since there are a lot of other hardware experts here, I'm happy to build out that app or build out that website that enables them to orchestrate their entire network to be able to take data from all of those devices, make sense of it, store that data, analyze the data, put machine learning models on top of it. So there was definitely, that's the thing about IoT is that it's hardware is only one part of it, and then what happens with all of that data coming from it, that becomes very much a software specific thing, right?
More about the exposure as well. That is what I personally feel, because for the first time when I got introduced with IoT kind of stuff was in one of the workshops that we were having during my college days, and we were having 2 days of workshop. And to be honest, I was not even aware of what is going on in the market, because we were reading about something. We were reading about software stuff. We were reading about DSA. We were reading about how you create a software. At some place, we were reading about ML and all those stuff, but we did not got introduced with the IoT stuff. I believe that is something which is missing in the education system, I believe, and we need to put some focus over there.
Yeah, I think you're very right in saying that. I think even before, the extent of hardware was, maybe if you're studying part of the electronics or electrical stream in engineering, you would at least have some exposure to hardware and building up circuits and building up devices, right? Apart from that, maybe the people who are interested in robotics specifically, they got exposed to some of these things, whether it was Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, all of that stuff. But anyone who was purely on the software side of things would not even know about the existence of these kind of prototyping boards and how quickly you could at least build out a simple working hardware, and then it was like that was your playground. You could then go ahead and build whatever you wanted on top of that. If you knew how to program, you could make it do fantastic things.
And that is what I've always heard. Like, if you know this stuff, you can club your programming skills into it, and you can make wonders out of it. If a person, like, let's assume a normal person, eh, if it is a professional, industrial professional, or if someone who is not a professional but a student, or maybe belonging to some other community, not in the IT field, not in the engineering field, but belongs to some other field. So for them, what do you think? Like, why should they be joining? According to you, what message would you like to give it to them? Like, why they should be joining communities, especially in this AI world? How can they get benefit from that?
the kind of progress that has happened in AI, especially in the recent past, it's been phenomenal, right? We see almost every industry, if not being completely revolutionized, at least being impacted in some way, right? And in most cases, it's for the better. Like, I don't mean to say that, it's not about job loss. It's not about, people being displaced. It's actually about, I'm a firm believer that AI is actually going to create much more jobs. So, for irrespective of which industry that you're in, irrespective of which function you're in, AI has a lot to offer. And so I would definitely encourage people to come and attend these kinds of events. Having said that, there are some events that become very technical, right? Like for us, the events that we kind of do are really focused on AI developers. So they do tend to get into the depths of, we'll do deep dives into new frameworks that have come out, into new models that are out there. We'll do code walkthroughs, we'll do hands-on sessions. But really, it's all very much focused on AI developers. So, which means that possibly if a designer who is, of course, working on software, but not so much on the coding side, if they come, sometimes they tend to get a little bit overwhelmed, right? And they're like, oh my God, what is this? I don't understand this stuff. This is not for me. Like, I don't want people to get into that phase where they feel like, I tried it, but this is definitely something that I can't understand. It is beyond me, right? So that's why it becomes important for us to do a little bit of curation, ensure that the right kind of people are coming based on the kind of content we know we're going to deliver at those workshops. Uh, but apart from us, there are so many other workshops, communities that are happening specifically for people in different spaces. And I would love to see more of those happening. Maybe it is beyond the scope for us to do it. Like, for example, I would love to see people conducting events which is generative AI for doctors, right? And then bringing in a few doctors who have already started to use it in very interesting ways, who are willing to share their expertise and their knowledge and their experiences, good and bad. So it would be great if there are other organizations or other communities that are going to start organizing events specifically for it could be by industry, it could be by function. Like you could have generative AI for finance professionals, generative AI for marketing. They've realized that whether it is creating ads, whether it is creating content plans, whether it's creating actual content for social media, generative AI has been a fantastic tool, and it is only getting more and more powerful and more useful. So some of those areas have picked up, but I would love to see other people coming and organizing events.
I'm working as a data scientist, right? So when I started reading about this domain, it was exciting for me. That's why I picked this line. And after some time, when I was done with this, and I was looking out for jobs, and I was looking out for the areas that I can work on, and the exposure that I can imagine was tremendous. Like you can just put AI into anything. You can just plug in as a tool, and you can do deliver a lot what you're delivering right now. Like you said, for doctors in the medical profession, it's very needed right now because medical profession has always been evolving. AI came very
Yes.
late, and
Yeah.
medical team is like they are working so hard, and they need something like this. So, like, I totally agree with you. Like when you said, people need to build some kind of a community over there, so it can help medical team. That's true.
I mean, I might not be aware. I think there might already be a lot of active communities looking at AI, specifically in the medical field. Because I'm not very well tied into that, I don't know.
Recently, we had a podcast with a pediatric nephrologist, and when we connected him personally, he said that he's using ChatGPT on an average daily. So he's reading. He has to read a lot of new researches. So what he do is he just update, put it in, upload in ChatGPT. ChatGPT creates a summary, and then he just listen it out. And if he thinks that there need to be a in-depth information he wants to go, he just read those pages. So Gen AI, ChatGPT, it is helping a lot. Yeah.
I think that's a huge time saving, right? Especially because a lot of the medical texts are also very elaborate, and this makes it so much more accessible. At least they can quickly read the summary, and whichever part is interesting, they can then kind of double click into that and go deeper. Huge boost already.
Like you have must have met a lot of people till now in your community. Any major feedback that you got, like that changed your life, or you can say like any major feedback that you got they gained from that community, so that the people who are not into this will understand what they can get out of the community when they join it. Anything that comes to me.
I think a lot of the direction that our community has taken over the years has actually come from members of the community coming and asking us, saying that, hey, can you do this for us? Or, I've been looking for information on this particular topic. Can you organize a session on it? So a lot of the things have kind of been like that. I remember the very first time that we did a hackathon, it was a hardware hackathon. And that request came from a community member um, who had come for one of our meetups and said, "You guys are doing, interesting work in this IoT space. Why don't you do a hackathon?" And so he was from Cisco, so he said, "We will sponsor it, and we can have it in our office, and we can do these hackathons." So we said, "Okay." We had never done a hackathon at that time, and we said, "Great, we'll figure out how we can do this, hardware focused hackathon." And it was a small one. It wasn't a very massive one. I think it was 6 teams, maybe 30 people, kind of a hackathon. There were, mentors, judges, people who were happy to provide their time and expertise. And once that happened, more and more companies started coming to us and saying that, hey, we also would like a hackathon. So someone from Intel came in and said, we're launching these new prototyping boards and we'd love to do a hackathon, but we want to do it for 100 teams. Right? So it became this massive hackathon, which was happening in a 5-star. It was happening over 2 days, and we had to figure out how are we going to pull this off, because as you can imagine, hardware tends to also get quite dirty. You have to do a lot of soldering. You have to, you're working with components that many times blow up, in those kind of experimental scenarios, right? So we had to figure out how to do all of those things and also make sure that we did it in a commercially viable way, right? So a lot of those kind of things actually started off just from our community members coming and saying that, hey, can you do this for us? And then for a long time, hackathon became one of the biggest revenue streams for us. We used to do these really large events. We could spin up hackathons in 15 days because everything was templatized. We knew exactly what we needed to get. We knew exactly how we should price things, all of that. So even now, and hackathons honestly are a lot of fun. Even just as organizers, I enjoy putting together a hackathon and just looking at the kind of fantastic ideas that people out there have. And a lot of times they have these ideas, they don't necessarily have the time to build it, and they just keep thinking, next weekend I'll do it, next weekend I'll do it. And then suddenly when a hackathon happens, it creates an artificial deadline and says that by this time you have to do it. So if you want, you can come in. And they come in, and over those 2 days, this idea that they're sitting on for a long time suddenly comes to life. So it's those things are really nice to see, and it's that way. It's actually very satisfying.
And that's how innovations happen.
Exactly. That's exactly how innovations happen under a lot of times under false constraints, false deadlines, limited resources. That's where a lot of innovation actually happens. Somebody who had come from one of the hackathons said, "Look, this is fantastic. In a matter of 2 days, you guys are building out all of these hardware devices and gadgets." So he was actually working very good friend of mine. He eventually became a very good friend of mine. At that time, we were of course strangers, and so he said, "I work for an advertising company, and we would love to take some of these, quick prototypes to our clients and say that let's do an ad campaign based on this. It could be a drone, it could be, an intelligent or a smart book. So it's a physical book, but it is embedded with electronics. It's embedded with Bluetooth. It connects to your phone, so you're following the story in that book, not just on the pages but also on the phone." I think for one concept, we built this huge ball. It was a concert where they wanted to throw this ball into the crowd, and it was a massive ball. I think it was like 12 feet across diameter. But there was a camera embedded in it. There was a GoPro embedded in it, and it was live streaming back from the from the crowd as the crowd was passing the ball around. It was live streaming back, and that was coming on the sides of the screens, on the sides of the stage, the two large screens that were there. So then people would see themselves, on the screen and get excited. So these are very small, kind of things done, but they were a really great engagement for brands with their audiences, and hence they started to get real monetary value out of a quick prototype that we could build, like within 3 days or 4 days, kind of thing. So that became another direction in which we took, the community activities forward. A lot of these things, really generated revenue for us for years, just because one person who had come for a meetup had this idea and said, "Hey, can you do this for us?" And so I think that is kind of like the power of the community, right? Like when like you rightly said, you're meeting thousands of people every year through these communities. 2 or 3 people come up with interesting ideas, and it can become a game changer for how you're going to spend the next few years. I remember we built this robot once for Adidas. They wanted to have this robot that was going to be active on 1 kilometer stretch of a marathon that they were sponsoring. So that was an interesting thing. And the only thing is, they came to us at the last minute and they said, "We only have 3 to 4 days. Do you think you can build this robot so quickly for us?" So we said, "Yes, I think we can." Some experts in our ecosystem who knew exactly how to build out this robot. So then they came in and they worked. I mean, they were essentially doing a hackathon in their house, right? 3 days before the event, 36 hours straight, they were building this, robot, and then trying to get as much of the cosmetics part also done, because we had to brand it with Adidas, kind of stripes and all of that. So that was a very, very interesting project that we had done. And when Adidas finally saw that robot on the day of the marathon, they were so excited about it that they said, "Look, we brought it to keep it, to engage with our runners when they're kind of on the road, but we are launching a new shoe, and we would like the robot to launch it. So let the robot bring the shoe on stage and give it to us." I think they had run a contest and they wanted to give the first pair of the shoes to the winner of that contest. So they said, along with our kind of chief guest that's there, we would like the robot also to participate. And what the robot was doing actually was, yeah, it had again a camera embedded in it, so it was recording everything that it was seeing, right? So it was. I remember at the end of it, we had the robot taking kind of recording of the entire crowd from the stage, and then there were, I think, the guest that was taking a selfie along with the robot, and the robot captured that also, how the selfie was being taken. So it was a fun moment in that entire thing.
So I and Bhavesh, when we were in the college, I got to know about Facebook Developer Circle through Facebook itself. And we went to that community. We attended their meetups. We made friends. And one thing that we got to understand that it is not there in our city, not even in our college. There is no community in our college. So we came back. We started a community. Our college name was Government Engineering College, GEC. So we started a community called GEC Developer Circle. And the first day we got 17 or 18 people. We were way too happy on that. And post that community grew. Then they are still running it. The channel that we have, they have like around 200-300 people. They are permanent the member of that. They update what they are doing and what they have learned. Why I'm sharing all this story? Because that helped us a lot. Okay. Also, the people in that community, because they learn from ourselves, because it is very obvious that in our Indian colleges, in an engineering college, uh, from education, it is very difficult to learn tech. It is to learn from yourself. So we taught them, they created project. A few of them collaborated with the government. They created project for local police and all, and they earned a lot. Now this helped them as well. And it all started when we got to know that there is a community called Facebook Developer Circle through Facebook. Now from there, our journey started when we started going to meetups through meetup.com. So there's just one tool that I know, which is meetup.com, through which I can join the meetup. And since you are into the field, you must be knowing a lot of other tools as well. So I wanted to ask that what are the best ways, tools or apps to discover and join different communities?
Yeah, I think Meetup definitely is one of the more popular tools. It's been around for a very long time, and which means that a lot of communities have, they originally started off on Meetup, and hence there's a fair amount of traction that they've got. We also have, that's where we started, and hence that's where our largest audience is. One of the more recent tools that have become very prominent is Luma. Right, LUMA, very nice tool. It's a very helpful tool, especially for organizers like myself, to quickly plan out an event, put it out there, and it aids in discovery, right? So it will, I think they do use a fair amount of intelligence in terms of showing the right kind of events to the right kind of people and being able to generate registrations. As the event starts to get more registrations, they have their own algorithms and their own editors who curate these events and say that, okay, in the technology side, this event seems to be quite popular. We will list it on the top tech events that are coming up in your city. In terms of just ease of use, I think Luma actually is doing a much better job now. While we put up our events on Meetup, we will actually tell people that you need to go and register on our Luma form to do that. Now, I think apart from that, there are fantastic sessions that happen, and now I'm talking only about AI, but whether it is in-person events, whether it is large format conferences, whether it is kind of challenges or just webinars, right? These things happen on companies' websites. So you can go to Google has a really fantastic program for everything related to AI. I think you can find it on their website or the Google for Developers social media handles are there. You can definitely find all upcoming events there. Similarly, Microsoft does use Meetup quite effectively there. So if you're following Microsoft Reactor, you'll actually get notifications about every new session that's happening. A lot of these are webinars that are happening across the world. AWS does constantly; they're doing very interesting webinars. And now the kind of new age, younger startups, they are also looking at what's the best way for us to reach out to potential users of our tools, potential, corporates who might sign up with us. So they're also finding that doing webinars is a great way not just to engage and not just share knowledge, but also introduce their tools in a slightly more structured way, right? Or whatever is the technical offering. So that also is becoming quite big. Mostly you'll find these on WhatsApp groups. So if there are some, active groups, I would definitely suggest you join those, because then people come in and they share their upcoming events and they let you know about a session that they're going to be doing. And in a lot of cases, it's not even that people have to come and promote their event, right? Somebody else will say, hey, I'm going to be attending this one event or this conference. If anybody else is also coming for that, let's meet up there, right? And so that different people who are members of that WhatsApp group will then help you discover new events that happen. So really today, I think, across Discord, across Telegram, across WhatsApp, you do find a lot of fantastic events that the community itself is sharing and promoting for each other.
Also, one pain point that we observed when we started a small community of ours, that people come to the community, they attend the event, and then they just have the high tea and all, and they go away. Okay. But what I believe is it's not the right way of getting into community. You are going into the community to learn from people, create connections, right? What do you think? How can someone maximize the value that they get from a community?
A good question. I think, see, what happens is that different people engage with a community or a specific meetup for different reasons, right? Sometimes the topic is very relevant to something that they're working on in their office. They were stuck. They just want to speak to an expert who's also in that space, or maybe the topic that is being covered is the next task that they're taking up. Hence, this becomes a great way for them to learn about something new. In many of those cases, it's they'll probably come in for that one session, and maybe the next event is not really relevant for them, so they're not going to come in for that. At a future time, they might again re-engage. Right? For some people, they definitely want to they find that the network is helpful. They find that they're learning. They might be more generic learners in the sense that they want to know a lot more about AI or a subset of AI, which could be Gen AI. It could be a subset of Gen AI, which might be, let's say image generation. So they will come and they're not specific to saying that I'll only come to learn this particular tool. So if you're doing a workshop on this tool, I will come, otherwise I will not come. They will come for anything which is related to image generation or video generation and things like that, right? So different people will engage for different reasons. I think sometimes you tend to get more people who come in quite often for the next event, the event after that, all of those kind of things. But the nature of community itself is that people come in for what is beneficial to them at that point of time. So I would say, like for us, we have only about 20% kind of repeat visitors, right? Almost 80% of the attendees for an event will be new. Of course, if we are structuring it in such a way that it is going to be a multi-part course, like this week we're doing the first part, and then next weekend we're doing the second part, and the last part we're doing in the third weekend. Then, of course, you will have high repeat rates. So people who are actually kind of doing the entire course. But apart from that, people engage with us. But having said that, a lot of times someone would have come and then they'll come back to another meetup after 2 years, and they actually tell me last time I had come was like 2 years ago. So that way, a lot of times we know that even though they're not actively coming in, they are still somewhere, kind of receiving our communication. They're staying in touch. They're reading the things that we're putting up there. They've downloaded our app. They're using it, but we had not actually interacted. They'd not actually come to the event. And like 2 years later, they came. And so that also happens.
Also, this is from the organizer's point of view, who is organizing. What if, like, if I am going there, what all things I need to focus on, so that because I am also putting my time and effort to learn something, how can I get the maximum out of that community? If I'm going into an event of DeepTech Stars, how can I get the maximum out of the DeepTech Stars? What all things I need to focus
For an attendee coming in, definitely pick and choose the topic that is right for you. If it is an area of interest, one thing we do not suggest to people is don't come just because you want to see the Google Office, right? Don't come just because you want to see the Microsoft Office. You're not just wasting your time, you're actually taking away a seat from somebody else who really, really wanted to learn about that particular topic. So you'll always get chances, to visit these offices and see how it is. But if you're coming for a meetup, come there specifically to learn, right? Whatever is the subject that is being taught there. Secondly, look at the expertise there. I mean, go through the details. One of our biggest challenges has definitely been that people look at the title and decide if they want to attend the event or not. Right? The minute that they see an interesting title, sometimes it is RSVP, they would not have read the details. They don't know who the speakers are. They have not paid attention to what is the agenda. A lot of times they don't even follow the registration process. So we would have said, this is the form, you need to fill out this form. Based on the information you give in this form, we're going to send out invites. They will just RSVP and then they will turn up there on the event day and say that, hey, I had sent my RSVP. So we asked them, but have you registered on the form and did you get an invite? They'll say, no, I did not register on any form. So that becomes a waste of time for them because a lot of times our events are full and we are then not able to get them in. So that means on a Saturday morning, they have come from wherever their house is to wherever this event is happening and they've just wasted their time. They're not even going to be able to enter the space, right? So we definitely suggest that understand what the event is about. If it makes sense for you, if there's a topic of interest, then come in. Third, make sure that you're bringing the right kind of equipment. Many of our talks have, and many of our events are just talks where you don't really need any kind of equipment. You're just coming there and you're going to listen and learn. But a lot of these will be hands-on workshops, right? And so there you have to bring your laptop, and ideally you want to bring the kind of laptop that that will be able to allow you to participate in this. For example, sometimes people bring their company laptop, and the company has restrictions on whether you can access any of the LLMs and so all of that. So then they come there to the event and then they realize that, oh, I'm not able to do any of these things. I'm not able to go and use Collab or any of these kind of tools. So then it becomes they're just following along whatever code on screen. They're not actually getting to execute it themselves. So these are a little bit more rare, but usually in the instructions itself, we put in all of this stuff and we say, please bring your laptop, please carry your charger. Because again, if you run out of charger at the event, then suddenly you're halfway through, you're enjoying the workshop, you're learning a lot, and then your laptop is dead. Right? So those kind of things. So I think largely just be a little bit smart about the kind of event that you want to attend. Make sure that this is the topic of interest. And once you come to the event, there are a few things that you can do to get the most out of it, right? One, of course, I think for most working professionals, this is not something that we have to tell them. It does happen a little bit more for students where we have to tell them, hey, pay attention to what the instructor is saying. It becomes like how in class, if the teacher is talking, sometimes they're not paying attention, they're having a side conversation. But largely for working professionals, their time, they realize that I could have been spending this time at home with my family. Otherwise, I'm working, 8 hours, 12 hours a day. The weekend that I get, if I'm going to come here, I'm going to pay attention to what is happening, right? So, but we do tell people that, pay attention to what's happening. If you have questions, ask those questions. Learn from the experts who are there. They're there to help you. They're giving their Saturday. They're very happy to take questions, but you have to ask. You have to get your doubts cleared. If there are any kind of notebooks or activities that the instructor has shared, definitely once you go back, spend time learning about it, consolidating that knowledge, building your own expertise. And finally, the best way to learn is actually by implementing, right? So whatever new concept that you learned, just pick up a project, some passion project, some topic of interest to you, anything that takes your fancy. Go ahead and start doing that particular project, right? With whatever new things that you've learned. That's the best way to actually get that expertise.
To my understanding, what I always see is whenever you want to, as a giver, when you're doing KT to someone, you're transferring your knowledge. Your agenda is to you can maximize whatever you have. You can maximize in that person. You can transfer whatever you know, the best you give. But as an attendee, he should be aware of what he's taking and he should be ready. And this is the most difficult part of this, because when it comes to knowledge, people who are interested, they'll only take it, otherwise nobody is going to take it, or most of them may be coming just to roam around the campus.
Yeah, it's like you can take the horse to the water, but the horse has to drink it, right? So that you cannot do.
You have built communities, you have met a lot of people. Right now, based on your experience, what you have, if I ask you to create a community from scratch, what would be the initial steps that you would like to take?
So, if I were to start a new community today, I would definitely look at, what's the smallest thing that I could do to bring together people who are interested in this space. Right? Whatever that might be, maybe even just 10 people, even just 5 people who can come in. So let's say that we wanted to start a community on travel, right? Fine, there are probably a lot of people out there who want to travel. A lot of times, yes, they might be happy to do solo trips, but a lot of times they're also saying that I would definitely like to go with a group of like-minded people. What is the best way that I can do it? So you do have tools like Luma, like Meetup. You do have tools like WhatsApp. Any of these are great ways to just start a community, right? Go ahead, create a group, and then share it in a few other places, which has a high density of the people that you want to attract, and say that hey, we're just starting. In this particular example, I wanted to go do some trips, and if there's anybody else also who's interested in joining, why don't we all catch up and think about where we can go and how we can do it? And that's a good enough way to start, right? Literally, what you're doing is trying to get like-minded people together, whether it is 5, whether it is 10, small group of people, saying that let's get together and make this one thing happen. Yeah. From there, typically what happens is you just keep your, just go with the flow. Just keep your mind open to all new. So the people will come up with fantastic suggestions. They'll say, hey, we can do this, we can do that. Different people have different things to contribute to the community. A lot of people want to volunteer their time and effort and expertise to that. A lot of them will be happy to leverage their network to make you get good deals, or to say that I had been to this particular place before. It was so good. We can go there. I know the owners of the whatever resort. I know the people who run a little shack at that place. So all of those things, that just comes together. It takes a life of its own. That is the part that you want to get to, where it has taken a life of its own. Right? Because from that point, the sky's the limit. And it really is just a factor of who all are getting involved, what are the kind of things, what is the energy, and what is the josh that they bring. Right? So I think the very first step is just to figure out which is the right place for me to, announce that, hey, I want to do something like this. Is there anybody else also who wants to do this? Let's do it together. That's just the spot. Definitely meet up, especially if you want to do a kind of a tech community or a startup community, business community. Meetup is a great place to do it. Luma is also a great place to do it, right? And so you can just start off from that point, and then just keep building on top of it. Figure out what are the pain points in this particular ecosystem. If we are seeing that there are a lot of pain points, let's pick up one and address that. Community building is nothing but finding those common connections for people, right? At its core, it starts off with that, and then you can add layers and layers and layers of sophistication onto it.
Like you mentioned, you are in a space where you are dealing with companies also right now. Uh, and with the world that is going on, with the technology that is going on right now. So when it comes to AI, it is evolving. It is ever evolving. It is evolving like anything. So what do you think like companies are looking for in the AI developers so that they hire? What are the things that they're looking for right now?
If you're looking at on the hiring side, things become very specific there, right? And they have it starts with mapping the requirements for that particular role and saying, okay, we need someone who has these kinds of skill sets, who has already worked on this particular tools or this particular tech stack that we are going to be using, and who can bring in that expertise to quickly build out this really great solution that we want to put out into the world, right? And so then they're looking for specific things in terms of this is the experience range, this is the kind of pedigree that we're looking for, this is the skill set that we want them to already have. And different companies prioritize different things. Like some companies will want to prioritize their candidates' ability to learn. How quickly can you pick up things? So some other companies will look at, we want to see how diligent and how thorough you are in your work. And so they might give you like, take home assignment to see how well you perform on those things. Some really want to test for the knowledge that you already have, right? And hence the interviews become quite elaborate. They go into very deep discussions on specific topics, so that they get a good idea of where you stand and what are the kind of skills that you are bringing to the table on day one. Right. So different companies, of course, have different things that they're looking for. In fact, on that, one interesting development that I've seen in the recent past is how companies have started adopting to AI tools, right? So they say that, look, in our company, you are anyway going to be using Copilot, you're anyway going to be using, Cursor or any of these latest tools to develop it. We want to make sure that you are actually very good at it. So even in the interview, we will do live coding sessions with you. Use whichever tool that you prefer. We don't care, but use whichever tool that you prefer. But we're going to kind of build it along with you and see how quickly you are able to build something. It allows us to understand how well you have adopted some of these latest technologies and how your productivity has increased because of these tools, because then you're bringing all of that expertise and productivity to our company also. You will be able to do a lot more than somebody who has not bothered to upskill, who's not bothered to use these tools, who's still kind of coding the old way. So, different companies are looking at things differently. Of course, some companies would say, we specifically don't want to use these tools during the interview because we want to test for the knowledge that you already have. Right. So we're not here to test your knowledge of being able to prompt or guide a tool, but rather what is the skill set that you already have? What is your critical thinking ability? What is the way that you process a problem and break it down into different steps and then quickly build a solution around it? Right. So different organizations are definitely looking at different skills, but also ways of evaluating those skills. That is a recent change that we've seen. And I think it is still too early to say that there is one right way or wrong way. I've definitely seen different companies use their methods very well in finding the right talent for them.
So have you seen some kind of a gap between the talent pool that we have and the ask that companies has? Could you please tell us what is the gap that we are still having?
Honestly, I think it is more of an expectation gap. More than anything else, it is an expectation gap. It's always the situation of, companies want the best talent at the lowest cost, and the talent wants, the best work at the highest pay. As someone who helps companies recruit, I have to find ways to bridge that gap and, make sure that both sides are happy by the end of it, feeling like, the talent should say that, no, I'm happy I got into this company. They've given me a good compensation, and I'm really excited about the work that I'm going to get to do here. And the people, my interactions with people so far has been, very interesting. I like this boss. I see myself working here for a long time. And at the same time, from the company side, they should be looking at it saying that this is a fair price. I think for the skill set that he brings, we are definitely paying slightly above market value, and but we are completely confident that this person joining our team is going to take us to a different level. They have the right attitude, they have the right work ethic, they're smart, they work well with others. So I think this is going to be the start of something great, and that is kind of what we're trying to get to. It doesn't always work out. A lot of times, the search goes on for a long time. Companies are not able to. There are very real constraints that many companies have, saying that, look, this is the best, the most budget that we have that we can spend on. And while sometimes we do come across a candidate who is ideal in all other ways, their salary expectations are a lot higher. We just could not afford that, right? At the same time, it's also right for the candidate because the candidate is saying, such a fantastic company, everything that they're doing is great, but I have real life constraints. I have EMIs, I have family to take care of, whatever it might be. And right now, there are other organizations which are also good, and they're offering me a significantly higher amount. It's right for me to go to those companies at this stage in my life, right? So the real constraints, real world constraints are there. and it becomes hard for us to figure out what is the best way to make that match happen. The other kind of gap that is there in matches is really more of a technical skills gap, and that is in a way it is easy to solve for because you can always find other candidates who have that the necessary skill set, and then be able to introduce them to the company. It's harder in the sense that if you have one candidate and they don't have that particular skill set, but they're very keen on trying that company, that is a push. Because how quickly can you teach them that skill set? I mean, while as a community, we do help people learn, we get access to different experts, all of those things. And as an organization that does training, we do help companies, with upskilling of the people. It is, whether commercially or otherwise not workable, where we can take one candidate and actually train them on a particular skill set and say, now you become an expert in this particular thing in the next 2 weeks, and then go for the interview. That will probably not work out for anyone, right? But having said that, it's a great way for a candidate also to say that let me keep track of what are the kind of in-demand technologies, and if that resonates with me, I'm going to put in time and effort to learn it now, even before I start looking for another job. I'm very happy, in my current company. I want to build up the skill set because I see that in my career, I want to start moving towards using this technology. A typical case in point, in fact, what we're seeing happening a lot right now is agentic AI, right? For a lot of people, they are excited about it. They're excited about the possibilities that you can unlock with agentic AI systems, and they want to reach a stage where they have got that expertise. So they're saying, okay, what's the right way for me to start? Which is the right framework, makes it easy for me to get started off, and then later, how do I graduate to more complex and more powerful frameworks? What are all the tools what are the agentic systems that are actually being used in companies? Because a lot of times, see, even when a company selects a technology to work on, it is not necessarily the best framework or tool or technology that is there. It is what is right for them because the rest of their ecosystem is already on, let's say, Azure. So if all of the systems on Azure, what has Microsoft got for them in the agentic AI space that integrates very well, that is easy for my existing team to pick up, all of that, rather than for me to shift to something completely new just because it is a slightly more superior technology, right? So those kind of a lot of decision making happens, in the context of what we're already doing and where we already are, and how we can take it forward. So yeah, so I think definitely for candidates, it makes sense for them to start focusing on the different things that they can do and what they can, areas that they want to build out their expertise in. Because if they're doing it diligently, doing courses, doing workshops, doing projects, attending events, all of those things, a time will come where they find their right next move in their career, and they will be very well placed to be the top contender for that role.
Nihal, you are also working on another startup, right? Apart from DeepTech Stars. We would love to talk about that as well. Can you give a little, can you just tell us a little about your upcoming startup?
Sure. So this startup is it's called Swarm. Basically, we are a platform that we're solving for luxury temple travel. Basically, putting together pilgrimages. I think one challenge definitely is that the whole pilgrimage planning and travel experience is quite broken in India. It's full of kind of a lot of points of friction, a lot of frustration. So we said, okay, maybe, and my wife and I, we travel quite often to temples. Every year we're doing at least 2 to 3 trips, and we have faced that frustration, firsthand. So we said, okay, let's do that. Let's try and solve for that particular problem. But we are kind of bringing a little bit more of a technology angle to it. So we're building out a platform that not just helps with, travel, but also delivers content, enables commerce on the same platform, and we are going to be building a large community around it. So again, like for me, community is always the most critical aspect of pretty much any business now, because today we're seeing that technology is no longer a moat. Anyone can build any technology. Money is also not actually money has not been a moat for quite some time. Because of the VC ecosystem that has become a lot more mature, there is definitely access to funding and access to good working capital for the right kind of startups and for the right kind of founders. Today, even data is not that much of a moat, just because all of these LLMs have captured all of the data in the world and everybody has access to it now, right? Unless you have some very, very proprietary data that cannot even be approximated by the world's data. So, and that leaves very, very few kind of things. So, in this kind of a system, I personally feel that your the moat that any business will have is actually the relationship with the with its users, right? With its users or with its customers. And there are different ways of looking at that. That's basically what a brand is. A brand kind of signifies what you mean to your user base. You could say it is a community of users. You could say it is the loyalty program that you have, the kind of loyalty that it generates amongst the user base. It could be the long-standing relationship that you have with your customer base, right? But all put together, it's really what it means is let's build a strong relationship with those that we want to reach out to and those that we are actually building for. Um, so that's where we are also kind of looking at building a community specifically for those who are looking to travel to on pilgrimages, right? So that is it's early stage. We are right now in the kind of in the fundraising space, and we should be able to. We already kind of completed a large part of the round, and so we should be closing that soon. But for us specifically, this is a departure from the way that I've built communities in the past, which was really more of bootstrapped, just building it for the sake of building a community and not really building it as a startup or a company. So even with DeepTech Stars, it's always been a community. It started as a community while we have done commercial activities, while we have done interesting work in that space. It has always been to sustain community activities. This time it is different. This time we're actually building it out as a pure play startup, which is building and leveraging community. So that is an interesting shift. But again, it's always fun for me to build a new community. Especially this one is so different from the entire tech community that I've been closely involved with for over a decade now. So it's really a shifting of gears for me to move from tech to faith.
Yeah, that would be a completely different uh, domain you are entering into.
Yeah.
Though the roots are still of creating community, but the whole age group will change, whole people thought process will change.
Yeah. Definitely. But the one thing that I know is that those same core underlying principles that we discussed earlier, that is still the same. You still need to add value. You still need to be consistent. So if you're doing those two things, if people are finding value, then they will still congregate. They will still come to you, and they will interact with each other. And then over that, they will tell us what they want after that. They will tell us what they're struggling with, and then for us, it's just about listening to what the user is saying and solving their problem consistently.
The momentum that we have in our country, you're going to get so many people from the age group that you already have in your current community. People are actually looking towards that. So it's a great thing. In fact, I believe I want to also send my parents into something like that. So I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Probably in the 40 to 55 kind of an age group, uh, who really want, they want to travel with their family. They might be having aging parents, they might be having young kids. And, so they want this kind of service which takes care end to end for them. And then there's another age group, which is like the 55 to 68 age group, which is much older people. Maybe they're not traveling so much with, the kids. Their kids might be, independent at the time, but they are traveling with their peers, with their friends, with their relatives, all of that, and they want to travel in a slightly more independent way on their terms, right? So those are the two groups that we have identified, and so we'll be doing that. But you're very right to notice that nowadays it's not just the older people who would be looking to travel to on pilgrimages. Like we saw what happened with Kumbh Mela, we saw what happened with Ayodhya. People of all age groups wanted to part. They wanted to be a big part of this. They wanted to put on the social media. Influencers were there. Even anybody else who they were seeing all of this. It was exciting. It was fun. India is definitely seeing a resurgence in religion, and so we feel like this is the right time for us to solve that one problem of ensuring that we are handling it end to end, providing that kind of convenience, providing the trust to our users, and making sure that they're having a really good time, especially supported by technology. I think that part has not really happened in a big way so far. Of course, travel agencies are there that will plan out trips, but travel agencies are not going to be building tech platforms in that way. Maybe, of course, make my trip and things like that, but that is a very different play compared to what we are trying to do.
Because you are connected with a lot of communities and you are connected with the latest technologies that involve evolvement that is happening, right? So you see India, what was 20 years back, 30 years back, and what you have seen in the past 10 years. What is the growth that we are having? So when it comes to AI, what do you think, like, how can India become the global hub for AI in terms of innovations, in terms of working? What do you think, like, how can we do that?
Yeah, India becoming a hub for AI innovation. I think in many ways that is already happening. We do have really fantastic companies here in India like Sarvam, like Bashini. All of these guys are doing very interesting work. There are many startups that have really pushed the technology, kind of to the limit. I think one challenge is that maybe the whole foundational model space. There's not a lot of work that has happened there when it comes to India, right? Like the kind of stuff that we see in US and China. Obviously, they're kind of leading the race. Europe also has organizations that are doing some good work in that space. In India, I think it is still a nascent thing, and there are a lot of discussions around should we even do it, and if we were to do it, how would it go about, right? So I think definitely one of the biggest challenges there has been access to that kind of funding, because these companies need a lot of money and there's a lot of uncertainty around it. Of course, now because OpenAI and Anthropic and Mistral, they've shown the way for a lot of people. It feels like, okay, maybe even other startups in other countries can do it. It's not limited only to Google or Microsoft or Meta, who obviously have the resources. For them, it's not so much a worry. But for young startups, you definitely need a lot of funding. I think here the government also is kind of stepping in. What is a lot of that money going towards today? It is going towards compute. You need access to GPUs, and so the government is stepping in and saying that, okay, we will procure it and we'll make it available. You apply through through the new program, and then as a startup you will get access, or as a educational institution, as a research or academic institution, you will get access to that kind of compute, right? So all of that is happening. So it's not very easy for India to become, kind of a hub for some of those things, but it is certainly not impossible. And one thing that I have seen, so some time ago, I got a chance to travel, to Google's kind of global developer relations meet, right? And they had several people, community organizers, all of that coming from across the world. Honestly, I think some of the Indian talent that was there is comparable or even better than the talent that we see in other parts of the world, right? I mean, really top notch talent. So there's no dearth of talent here. There's no dearth of expertise. There's no dearth of ability to learn. I think really it's just about that whole perfect storm coming together where you have the right people coming to work on the right problems with the right resources and funding. That is what will lead to breakthroughs. And that also has improved because now a lot of the investors that we speak to, like even 10 years ago, there was maybe two, maybe three deep tech investors, right? And even their understanding of deep tech was fairly limited. It was still evolving. They also would maybe they would call it deep tech, but it was not very advanced, right? The situation is very different now. In the last 3 weeks itself, I've spoken to three different deep tech investors who are all doing very, very, kind of nuanced investments, right? They are going after, whether it is space technology, whether it is material science, whether it is bio. They're investing in really hard problems and startups that are willing to take on those hard problems and willing to take on the risk that comes with all of it. And these companies are funding them. They're going in with their eyes open. They're going in with all of the support that they can provide to these startups. So that is definitely very heartening. The kind of forget 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, probably our ecosystem was not as mature, but now that has changed.
What do you think? Where are we lacking? What all steps that we still need to take to become global hub?
I feel all the pieces are there. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle that has to be put together. The individual pieces are all there. It just requires it all to kind of come together, right? Like if we look at, does India have talent? Yes, we do have the best of talent, and we can make things happen. Look at everything that's happened with ISRO, right? The best of the minds working on the toughest of the problems with limited resources and still being amongst the best in the world. Well, literally best outside of the world also, because these guys are out there in space already. So very much outside of Earth, Indian talent is one of the top talent pools out there. So I think, but specifically for us, when it comes to anything in AI or deep tech, I do think it's really these pieces all coming together. Like I said, you need the right kind of people who are going to come out there and become founders, become part of founding teams, become part of early stage startups, build really great solutions, build really great technology, push the boundaries of research, not be afraid to try new approaches, all of those things to solve specific problems. Along with that, yes, they have to also think through on the business side of things. How do we build out the startup in a commercially viable way, solving problems that specific groups of people are having that they are willing to pay money for? Marrying all of those things, not just the business side of it, but also the technology side, marrying all of those things together, going there and showing investors that look, this is where there's real problem to be solved and real money to be made, and what we need from you is the resources to help us get there, and for investors to then take that leap of faith and say, great, you guys seem to be you seem to know what you're doing. You have a clear thesis. We don't necessarily know how we will get there. We don't necessarily know if this will be successful, but there's enough here for us to say that we will take the risk along with you. You are putting in your time, your effort, you're dedicating the next several years of your life to solving this problem. We are there with you, providing you the resources that we can, and taking that forward, right? So, and of course, users also. It is the role of the startup and the founders to communicate that value proposition to the users, where the users also feel like, you know what, this actually is a problem that I've had. And if you guys are saying that you can solve it for me in this particular way, I'm willing to try it. Right. So I think that way, India, that has, we've become so much more tech savvy that now the early adopter base has started to increase. Right. So many more people are willing to try something new. They're at least willing to give it a shot, which might not have been the case before. So now it really becomes a question of how well are the founders able to communicate that value proposition and convince those early users to come in and try it out, get their feedback, engage closely with them, and say that, help us understand what you liked about this, help us understand even more importantly what you didn't like about it, what can we improve so that we are actually solving this problem for you, and then to take it from there, right? So I think basically, like I said, it's all the pieces are there, all the pieces of this puzzle. Now it just has to all come together.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Yep. So yeah, with that, Nihal, we would like to thank you. You have given two precious hours of yours. Uh, this was a great conversation. We have learned a lot, and we believe that people listening to this will learn a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ankit and Bhavesh. It was fantastic talking to you.
We hope you found this episode insightful and learned something new today.
If you did, don't forget to share it with your friends, colleagues, or peers. And make sure to subscribe to ExpertConv for more such conversations with industry experts.